If you're a beginner gardener, there are three things that are absolutely going to be a game changer when it comes to being successful. And this is coming from someone who's gardened since she was about 5 years old. No word of a lie. I gardened so much that when I was an adult, I decided to get an entire degree in soil science. Yeah, that's how much I love gardening. And now I've worked in the world of agriculture for the past 15 years. So I'll let you do the math on that. Let's just say plants, soil, it's my jam. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I've narrowed down three things that I can guarantee you I've seen every gardener make a mistake on. And they aren't these mistakes that really don't matter at the end of the year. They are mistakes that will heavily change the results of your garden and truly will change your success. So number one is a permanent yield ceiling caused by root problems. We don't think about our roots much. They're below ground, so we don't really care about how much there is or what they look like. The only time we really do is when things are root bound, and that's about it. But what if I told you that studies show that root to shoot ratio is hugely important when it comes to determining plant performance? So what this means is that we don't want to rustle tussle roots. We don't want roots that are cut or trimmed in some ways. I've seen that before. We also want to give roots enough room to expand and make as much root as we possibly can, because the more root we have, the happier and healthier our adult plant will be. If we harm the root capacity or we stunt its growth in some way, we can cause problems. So the question is, how do you stunt growth besides the obvious of rustle tussling or, leaving it in too small of a container? Well, here's kind of the main ones I've seen in the past. So let's first start with what happens with a plant that we're transplanting or potting up prior to putting outdoors. So we have our plants in just their classic seed cells that we maybe started them in, and those are small. And we know we have to bump those up, otherwise things get root bound and they tend to get a little bit stunted. So then we bump it up into a larger container. And tomatoes, peppers, plants of that nature, I find in particular, we do something really weird with. We tend to sink them all the way to the bottom and then fill the rest up with soil. So what the plant is doing now, rather than focusing on growing the roots that it initially had and was supporting, it's now thinking about how it has to put roots on the stem. And these are just going to be those little nub roots, and as well as supporting the ones below. So the stress from this deters the plant from the root to shoot ratio that we're looking for. So step one, when transplanting, is actually to transplant level with the soil. It doesn't matter what plant you are planting. It doesn't matter if it's a flower. Try to keep that root ball as close to that surface originally as what it was when it germinated as possible. And that can make a huge difference and actually reduce the stress on the plant trying to figure out where the roots need to be placed and just focusing on that original taproot that was developed. Now, number two is going to be hands down, without a doubt, actually transplanting into larger sized containers. So I did a whole video on root trainers, and this here is a root trainer container, if you will. And what this means is that we are going to have a plant that has a whole heck of a lot of root. So this isn't so much about how not to damage the root as much as it is about making a monster root system, which will then improve our potential, which will in turn change our shoot potential, if you will. So you can get a root trainer. You can also just get a bigger container if you like. And again, you want to plant it flush, but you want to have a little bit of depth to that bad boy. Now he's sitting in this for support so he doesn't tip over because those containers are really kind of floppy. But another great example of this is my castor beans. So castor beans here, again, in a big container. Doesn't need to be in this big of a container for sure. But if I want that monster root system and I want a really good root to shoot ratio, which in the case of castor beans, you better believe it, I want a good root to shoot ratio because these bad boys get huge. This is the way to go. Now, next up is actually for some of our more sensitive roots. So we have things like poppies, zinnias, pumpkins, cucumbers, squash, things that have really sensitive roots. And they don't tend to transplant well. They don't tend to transplant well outdoors, and they tend to not transplant well when getting potted up. And so what I do is actually start the seeds directly inside of a compostable container. In this case, I'm using peat. What I do here is if the roots are not coming out the bottom, I will actually peel this back and then plant it with the bottom missing. But if I'm seeing a bunch of root activity here, I just leave it all in place and the roots will eventually perforate this and go into that soil. But this helps to reduce that disruption that can and will cause problems. And again, besides the poppy, these are plants that need, thrive, and survive on really high upper biomass. We're talking a metric buttload of leaves and stems. So we need the root systems to support that. And the only way to make that happen is via containers like this. So another really important step I find. The next thing is actually putting them outdoors. So when we put our plants outdoors, we want to support the roots as much as possible. And we can water and we can fertilize. And I'll do actually a whole separate video on exactly that. Where to place the fertilizer. Should it be root ball placed? Should it be side banded? What depth should it be placed at, etc., and so forth? Because that can affect the roots ultimately, but that needs to be a whole video on its own, in my opinion. I might be biased as a soil scientist, but in my opinion, it does need to be a totally separate conversation, if you will. So if you want to see that or you want to learn more, hit that subscribe button. I'm a real person. I'm not AI. I'm giving you very real-time information from an incredibly cold climate. You're supporting a real person. It's the free thing to do if you truly enjoy this channel. It helps it grow. It helps it get a little bit more clout, if you will. And it would mean the world to me. So personally, thank you from the bottom of my heart if you did hit that subscribe button. And if I haven't convinced you yet, I will, I promise, very, very soon. If you continue to watch all the way to the end, I almost guarantee you will learn something. Because when I was even researching this video, I learned something. So there you go. So next up is actually when we place them outdoors. So like I said, water and fertilizer matter, but the fertilizer conversation is separate. What I will say is just don't put it in the root hole necessarily. I'll leave it at that for right now. But when we put them outdoors, we want to make sure that the temp is there. So soil temp is very important, and roots need certain temperatures to survive and thrive in. So for example, my soil temp right now is somewhere around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which means that things like celery, cabbage, onions can all go outdoors. But things like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants will all struggle enormously if I did put them outside. So those we need to hold off on until that soil temp hits the temperature it needs to be at. So soil temp can make a huge difference for nutrient and water uptake. And ultimately, that kind of stunted growth prevents what would be biomass accumulation above ground inside of a warmer environment. The next step is actually the light shock. So hardening off is the process of exposing the plant to more light. And there's a lot of misinformation around this, to be completely honest. When we hear about hardening off, we usually think of time exposure because that's what people tell us to do, influencers, etc., and so forth. Day 1, you'll leave it out for an hour. Day 2, you'll leave it out for 2 hours. But that's not the truth, because 1 hour of really intense light can do way, way, way more damage than just 6 hours or indefinite time in shade. And I wish I was joking, but it's completely the truth. So hardening off is not about just riding into battle and telling your plants, suck it up, buttercup, this is your new life. The reality of hardening off is that we want to increase the light intensity, not the duration or the time. So the best way to actually go about doing this is to actually take your plants from different lighting conditions and kind of amp it up. So you're taking them from inside, you're going to put them outdoors under a shade cloth, maybe up against a house, completely sheltered from wind. That's step 1. You're going to leave them out there all day, 12 hours a day, and take them indoors if it gets a little bit cooler at night, or you're going to cover them at night. That wind is crazy out there. It just took my window off my greenhouse. I'm impressed. We'll fix that later, but in the meantime, now I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I literally just posted a video about this here on Wednesday. So go check that video out if you want to learn more, because it literally goes through all things plants and light and how to harden off correctly without just stressing them out, if you will. Third mistake is actually feeding. So seedlings obviously need to be fed when they're transplanted outdoors, but timing does matter. So when you initially transplant them, you probably don't want to give them any sort of liquid fertilizer. You want to let them recover, but you still want to feed them with water because it's important. And the temperature of the water you use is even more important. So you want to use sun-warmed or lukewarm water whenever possible when it comes to actually feeding your seedlings or watering your seedlings after transplant. Approximately 1 week after you've transplanted outdoors, you want to continue to water with that kind of sun-warmed water combined with something that has a root booster in it, particularly like the Root Pro Mix Root Booster formula. I'll put a link down below for that. Mine's coming right as we speak because I haven't really transplanted too much outdoors yet. And I cannot find my original bottle to save my life, despite the fact that I did think it was in here, but I digress. So it's a great example of something that you would want to add approximately a week after. We don't want to just starve our plants out because they're in the ground and there's nutrients in the ground. That's not necessarily the case because it's not bioavailable in all cases. So now with that being said, this is my most recent video, and that's what Google says you should watch next. I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.